having each other's backs, being aligned, coming to each other when you do have a problem. Because what's cool is because of how often we communicate, and like I don't see him that often. I'm on the road all the time. We're both busy, but we make sure that we're keeping each other in the loop so that we're on the same page. So it's very, 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 very rare that first off, we're not aware of things we need to be, and second, on both sides, and second off, that we're on different pages. We make sure we're always on the same page, and then again, we want the same mission. We do think differently, and we respect each other. So even if he might do something that I wouldn't have done it the same way, generally I have a level of trust, and I'm like, well, you probably know something I don't, and a lot of times that is the case. So having that high level of trust and benefit of the doubt, and then constant communication is really what it takes.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? There's a special bond between the CEO and the COO. These two work together, yin and yang. They work together so that they can drive the company forward. They probably have different skill sets. They probably see the world a little bit differently, but they also have to align together on the core principles of the business. Now, that relationship is very powerful when you get it right, and it's very stressful when it doesn't quite work. And when you find the right person and you want to hold on to them, you want to make sure you take care of them, you want to make sure you reward them, and you really recognize them for what they're doing inside the business. Now, I'm not going to talk much about the reward and recognition part, but I am going to talk about the alignment and the communication that it takes to create the kind of relationship between a CEO and a COO that drives a company fast. So I went back into my research to find a company that I felt like was doing this really well, and I found Hawke Media. I talked to Erik Huberman, the founder there, and he talked about hiring Tony. And Tony is something that a lot of people respect and admire. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about Tony. Tony has the ability to really balance the visionary skills that Erik has with operations and really getting things done. And it really is a great conversation I have today. Just a little bit about Hawke Media. They were number 110 on the Inc. list in 2017. So they're a fast growing company that continue that level of growth the last few years. And I really am excited to share that with you. When you think about your role as a CEO and your key relationship with the COO, this is the episode that you guys want to listen to even together if you can and have a conversation around it. That's my challenge to you. All right. Here's the interview with Erik. Hi, Erik. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Excited to have you here at Grow Think Tank.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to give you a chance to talk about the company a little bit. I've already shared with our audience about you and kind of your principles of leadership and really what this is about. But tell me about the company and why it got started.
Yeah, basically got started because after building and selling to D2C brands and working in consulting for a lot of different brands on the marketing side, I just found that it is really hard for companies to find good marketing. If you're not a really sexy startup that's high funded or a Fortune 1000, the chance of getting access to really good marketers is slim to none. And I thought that was just a broken model. So tried to create an environment where I could attract really good marketers and make it accessible for companies to get top tier marketing. And so through that pain point, we started with 7 people, a little SWAT team of marketers, each with their own expertise, like a Facebook marketer, an email marketer, a web designer, et cetera, and went back to companies and said, everything's a la carte, month to month, cheaper than hiring in-house. The idea is you can spin up a team that fits your needs based on like a menu of services. And so that's how we started. It's been 5.5 years. We've got about 175 people full time. And yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
And all of that, and you've had tremendous growth. And you had just talked about, you have 400 or so clients now that were thrilled with you, which is difficult to do, to have 400 clients thrilled at one time.
Yeah, no, it was fun. We had a month where like we really didn't lose any business. We didn't have any problems. And again, at scale, there's always something going on. And it's like one of those, like I actually was concerned in a weird way. I shot a note to some of my team, like, can we double check all this? Because this is actually kind of surprising, but it seems, we've spent 5.5 years honing in on how we service clients, what we do, doing good work, attracting really good talent. And it's getting to that point where it really is objectively good and affordable. So we've been able to start to get to a point where it just makes sense.
Now, I don't know at what point, do you remember when you actually, how many employees you had total when you actually formed a formal executive team?
Well, so one of my first hires was originally hired as like our head of client communications and like strategy, which again, we were 7 people. So he was the guy talking to our clients, and he became my director of operations and then COO pretty quickly. So right away I had a counterpart there. And then basically we had 5 different service lines, so to speak, or 5 different departments, whether it was advertising, lifecycle marketing, content marketing, creative, and strategy. And as those teams built, as we needed to hire 2, 3, 4, we ended up putting someone in charge of that team. And so it was organic, and it was just as we had a team of multiple people serving a similar department, we needed someone to oversee it. In terms of senior executives, it really started mid last year to this year that we started hiring like true VPs of departments. And we're trying to, soon finish out basically a 5-person executive team that can run the company under my partner and I. And we have 3 of 5 of those right now.
That's pretty cool, because what I heard in all that is that you really valued having leaders at the right places as the company has grown.
Yeah, 100%.
When you think about your team as it is right now, how would you describe your communication level and alignment?
I guess in what way communicating with my team?
Well, just the fact that, how you guys are communicating with each other and how aligned are you toward the big goals that the company has?
Yeah, I think we're pretty open about the goals and what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And we talk about it a lot. So I don't think there's any misconception or doubt as to where we're trying to take this. I'm very vocal about it and talk to the whole team about it regularly. I think the details and the articulation we can always be better at, in developing true OKRs per person, per department, per the company are not necessarily as articulated. Like the where we want to go is articulated. The how a lot of people know and a lot of people don't.
Okay. And you had mentioned that relationship with the COO, and I think of that as a really critical hire inside of it. Not that they're not critical hires, but just such an important role for you as you've grown the company. Tell us a little bit about what you were looking for before you hired that COO.
Yeah, so he took the role as COO before I gave it to him, so to speak. So like I wouldn't say that I went out and sought out a COO. And it's funny. So his name's Tony, and people that know how our business runs and know me well continue, like all my business owner friends always ask me if I can help them find a Tony. Because what he is, it's like we call ourselves yin and yang. His favorite line is, "I go make promises, he delivers on them." So which is fair in a lot of ways. But I'm basically been able to focus, and he'll say this, like I have a talent for networking, sales, expansion, vision, like that side of it, like running through walls I like to do, and I can push the company to grow faster than it necessarily would under someone else. But he's the good guy that comes and picks up the scraps and the collateral damage along the way, where it's like, okay, we're going to open New York, and I go open New York, put an office there, hire someone, and start sending people out there. And he's the guy that's like, okay, how are we communicating and managing these people? Like, how are we dealing with the time difference? How are we dealing with like the operation out there? All the details that come in once we actually have it set up, frankly, goes onto his plate, and then he puts it together. That doesn't mean that we just like separate it and I go, okay, I'm out later, thank you. We collaborate on it, but he really takes responsibility on seeing things through, and I take responsibility on pushing us forward. And that's been since the beginning. So I've had the ability to continue to look forward and keep pushing, and knowing that I have someone with me that is constantly making sure that once we start something, it's executed properly, it's put together properly, and then process driven and set up so that it has long-term success.
I want to go into the details of this because I think a lot of companies are still, maybe they have a COO, but they haven't found the alignment that you have with Tony. And so many people aren't coming to them going, can you help me find another Tony? So how did you develop that relationship so that it really did pay off for the company as a whole?
Yeah, so there's a few things. One, I had a history with him. I started a music company in 2009, built it for 2 years, and then he took over for 3. So I had left the music company, but I started something he had continued, and we had stayed in touch the entire time. So when I started this and saw the opportunity and asked him to come over, we already had a relationship and a trust that had been built. And then from there, it was, every day it's about being super transparent, open, candid, having each other's backs, being aligned, coming to each other when you do have a problem. Because what's cool is because of how often we communicate, and like I don't see him that often. I'm on the road all the time. We're both busy, but we make sure that we're keeping each other in the loop so that we're on the same page. So it's very, 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 very rare that first off, we're not aware of things we need to be, and second, on both sides, and second off, that we're on different pages. We make sure we're always on the same page. And then again, we want the same mission. We do think differently, and we respect each other. So even if he might do something that I wouldn't have done it the same way, generally I have a level of trust, and I'm like, well, you probably know something I don't. And a lot of times that is the case. So having that high level of trust and benefit of the doubt, and then constant communication is really what it takes. It's, you know, I literally, I had to tone it back because I would just burst into his door like 6 times a day for 3 minutes to just let him know what's going on with some deal or something we're doing, and jump out. And he was like, okay, like there's a lot of things I'm doing. Like, you got to stop being my Kramer. Like, you got to let me know when you want to like, give me a quick wave before you just burst in on like a one-on-one where someone's pouring their heart out about how they feel about their job. So that's fair, because he also kind of acts as our in-house therapist. So but it's a constant communications thing. And again, it's like any relationship where, you know, communication is going to break down, but if you have mutual respect and trust in each other, then you're just going to assume there was a communication breakdown. So, you know, double checking those things, again, having radical candor, calling each other out on their shit, being ready to receive that criticism too, like all those things. And then I'd say the last piece is just like, Tony's a really sharp guy, and I know he feels the same about me. So aside from just being respect for the sake of respect, I know we both find each other to be interchangeable in a lot of ways, where I don't think I'm better than him at a lot of things, and vice versa. We have our pluses and minuses on both sides, but we're, again, pretty yin and yang. So when he does have a different opinion, we talk it out, we feel it out, same deal. Like, we're really open to having those conversations and solutions, and things that he brings up to me that I would never know based on the way I've put myself into my own company, problems that we're dealing with and things that I don't want to deal with on a daily basis that he has a view on, we can discuss and try to solve together, because he also respects my input on it.
Now, hold on for a second. Do you truly want a COO that's interchangeable with you from a skill set? The answer is probably not. But I think when you really look at it, it goes beyond just you being able to cover for them while they're on a vacation and vice versa. That the way that the CEO works and the COO works is they have different skill sets. They have a different way of connecting with people. Most of the time, the CEO is the visionary. And they're also the one that is out there driving revenue and growth. And that's true with Erik. But your COO will be the one that's more process-centric and really tries to organize things and put structure to it, puts boundaries. And those are different kind of skill sets. They approach the problems differently. So there can be some conflict, but it sounds like Erik and Tony have a great working relationship. But you want to think about how you and your COO are working together. If you are looking to improve that relationship, get more out of it and create the alignment. I work with teams like that all the time to help them grow as leaders together and help them individually in their roles. So that's what I do, and I'd love to help you if I can. Now back to the interview. Let me ask you a question on this. Are there any mistakes that you could share with us about how working together with that COO that we could all learn from?
I'll call him out on one because I still like to poke fun at it. About a year and a half into working together, he sent me an email at about 10 o'clock at night with a list of, I think it was about 75 things that he thought was wrong with me. And it was just this massive list of everything I was doing wrong as a business partner, as a friend, as an employer, as whatever. And I read it, wanted to hit him, and then called him. And it had, the root of it was actually just a smaller problem, which was like, he didn't feel that originally our deal was equitable, and we changed it. But instead of coming to me with that or being candid with me about these things on the ongoing basis, I basically got a list of, in the past year, here's all the things you did wrong. Like, well, this is fucking helpful. I've never heard of this before. Like, now what I'm supposed to do with this other than get angry? And so that's never happened again, because like, yeah, no problem, we can fix this. But like, you gotta, like, if I do something, you gotta call me out then and there. Not like, you holding shit in is crazy. Like, and it doesn't serve either of us. Like, if I don't know, I'm not gonna change. You're just gonna get more pissed off. Like, what's the point here? So it hasn't happened again. That was 4 years ago. So I think we've been on a pretty good track since. But I know that sometimes, like, I'm the opposite of passive aggressive. If I have a problem, I go right at the person or right at the problem. And he is a little bit more of a contextual communicator, where it's not just about like, this is the thing, let's go. And so still sometimes I know he even tells me he has to remind himself to like, when something triggers him, to come talk to me about it, because we are very different people. We do still operate differently. And so I will do things that piss him off and vice versa. It's nature of a relationship.
Are there any uncommon approaches that you guys have taken to create the kind of balance and structure you need to drive the business forward?
I guess part of the problem is I don't know what conventional looks like. So I've always done the startup thing, but I really truly feel like we've built each other as interchangeable. So I'd say the one problem that creates is sometimes people will come to us with the same thing. We'll give different answers because, there could be two decent answers that are different, and that confuses our employees. But I kind of throw it back at them and go, why the hell are you asking me if he already gave you an answer? But that's the one criticism that we get. Other than that, like I can jump in and help. Like we basically get to role play where, like right now, perfect example, I'm more responsible for the growth of the company than he is. He's more responsible for the service we provide, the accounting, HR, legal, that side of the operational side. I try to take more of a hands-on approach with sales and marketing, but he was, as a process-oriented guy, he really doesn't like that we don't have a very traditional book-bound sales manual for all our salespeople. So he's creating it over the next 2 weeks. Like we have a lot of the data and all the content we need for that, but we don't actually have the binder. So he's like, I'm gonna go get a binder for all our salespeople. I'm like, great. So he's jumping in and doing that. So it's that, where's the low-hanging fruit of our business at this current point? Either of us can jump in and take that on. And a lot of times I'll go to him about an operation problem and I'll be like, hey, I can funnel this through you, or I can just go handle it with the team. He's like, yeah, just go. One of our teams is operating out a model and we need to either increase on sales or shore some things up, and I can go through him and let him go talk to him, or I can just go handle it myself. So that interchangeability also, I want to go on vacation, totally fine. He wants to go on vacation, totally fine, because we can cover for each other really well as well.
But you also say, as much as you've talked about being interchangeable, that he's probably more process driven than you are. You're more kind of fly by the seat of your pants.
Yep. I'm very data driven, but not process driven. I hate tedium and mundane. So I don't do a good job of okay, I'm going to sit down and write a process out. I respect process. I like process for our team. I understand the scalability of it, but if you're asking me to be the one to create it, that's a bad idea.
That's the reason we have Tony, right?
Right. 100%. He loves it. His whole, he loves building a great culture, working with people, his real satisfaction is working with great people and building something cool. My satisfaction comes from growth and new experiences and ever changing. So I don't like day to day. I mean that in the general sense of the word. My job changes all the time and I love that. He likes seeing internal improvement and relationship building, which is why it's such a good complement for our type of business. Because when we first started, when we were starting to basically be more partners, he talked a lot about culture. I was like, and again, there's a lot about culture now. 6 years ago, culture was a little bit more of a new buzzword. And we talked about company culture and I was like, yeah, we have a ping pong table. We're good, right? And he's like, no. So here's our core values that we live by. He wrote, not me. There's been he's really helped build the way we do things and how we do things. I've built the why we do it, I guess is the point.
Let's pause here for a second. Living by core values. Hopefully to you, that means that you actually are driving the business forward by keenly looking at those core values in everything you do. And if your employees can make decisions without you being in the room based on what the core values are, you have a solid set of values that guide the company, and they really provide structure and framework for you to grow the company without you having to make all the decisions. Because everything that you do in business comes down to the key decisions: what clients to sign, what to charge them, how to serve them, what do we go extra above and beyond, or do we hold back? All of these big decisions are happening day in and day out without your knowledge as the CEO or the founders of the company. But you want to make sure your people understand the values and they're living by it. One of the exercises I do is I sit them all down in a room and we talk about what each of the core values means to them. And if we can get alignment around what those words are, really powerful things happen, and it allows them to sync together, not just take for granted what the core value means. Well, that's my take here. And now back to the interview. you mentioned core values. I want to ask you, as a team putting it together, how do you make sure that you're living by the core values, not just, you put them up on the wall, or you had an exercise that you did it, over a week or something.
Oh, yeah.
How do you live by it?
Yeah, great question. And I'm taking this straight from him. I give credit where credit's due. You create core values you can actually manage to. Like, we've been actually reworking our core values recently and trying to update them. But the argument and the pushback we constantly get is, can you actually hire, fire, and manage to these core values? Because that if you can, then these are real. And he especially is very adamant about this better not just be shit written on a wall. This has to be stuff that we actually manage to and hold to, and help manage ourselves to, hold everyone accountable here, and let our people hold each other accountable to these values if they're legitimately our core values. And so the way they're set up, you have to be able to do that. If it's things like we see it all the time because we've been looking at a lot of examples of core values, there's general statements like, we have fun. That's a core value. How do you hire someone or manage someone or fire someone because you're not having fun? That's it. Get out. It doesn't make any sense. And it's something that it resonates with me as a principle, as something that you want in your company. We had a Nerf war the other day. We have all these ridiculous things. This is a fun place to work. I see everyone laughing and joking around all the time, but I want it to be fun. But to have that as a core value, you have to find a different way to articulate it that actually allows you to manage to it.
Yeah, I'm smiling when I say that, because culture is so much more than ping pong tables, right?
Yeah. No, and that's why I use that example, because sincerely, I was we're like a startup. We have a ping pong table. We're by the beach. There's our culture. It's no, that's not how this works. From him, he was he had run a 10,000 person organization. He's no, hold on.
Well, Erik, I want to go into a little bit of a hard question for you, and I don't want to surprise you too much, but can you tell me one defining moment that you have had to endure as a leader that really kind of shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I have an easy one, actually. So it's not that hard of a question, because this was a huge lesson for me that will always stick with me. And it's one that I repeat a lot because it was a good lesson from actually my dad. So it's a crazy story, but when I first started, we had 5-7 people here at Hawke Media, and my main guy that was managing half my clients emails me at 3 a.m. on a Monday. So I get into the office, I'm wait, what's this? And it's hey, Erik, long story short, I met a girl on Saturday, fell in love, asked her where she wanted to go. She said Hawaii, we're working remotely this week. Okay. So knew the guy was a little emotional, yelling at him wasn't going to do anything. So I just I called him a bunch of times, but he's in Hawaii, so it's 3 hours earlier. I got a hold of him around noon on Monday. He's hey, what's up, buddy? I'm hey, man, have fun in Hawaii, but make sure you handle your stuff. You're managing 4 clients, which again was half the business. This is a month into our business. Make sure you handle it. He's yeah, of course I got it. Don't worry, I got everything. I'm okay, great. And I was rolled my eyes, Jesus, people. Hung up. Next day comes around. All 4 clients call me furious. They blew off all of their calls. They literally are all what the hell is your team doing? Again, we were brand new, so it wasn't we had history with all these people. And they're freaking out on me because they just paid us, and this guy's blowing them off, and he's not doing their job. So I'm trying to get a hold of him. Finally, I do. I'm Brian, what the hell? All your clients are calling me freaking out. What are we going to do? You need to get on top of this. He's Erik, I'm going to stop you right there right now. This is the happiest day of my life. I'm getting married tomorrow, and I just need you to back off. Met a girl on Saturday, married her on Wednesday. Little office rocker, but I look at who's now my business partner, Tony, and go, I don't really know what we're going to do here. He's I'm going to go find a bunch of tutorials on how to run email marketing, because that's what he was doing for these 4 people. And I'm going to fix it, because Tony's the guy that aced calculus in 3rd grade. So he learned email marketing over the weekend and was able to build out all these workflows and looked at best practices and did the work. So he saved that part. But anyways, I get out of work. I call my dad to tell him the story of this guy completely blew it off, and I tell him this whole story that I just told you. And he goes, oh yeah, that shit happens all the time. Anyways, I got to go, talk to you later, quick. And I was to me, it was I might lose half my business. And to a guy, he's an entrepreneur too, that's been doing this for 45 years. He's yeah, that's fucking normal. It's always a fire. Great. Talk to you later. And so it's the biggest lesson, the biggest thing that I continue to have to overcome is understanding that every single day as a business owner, you're going to be dealing with bullshit or some sort of fire. That's your job. If it wasn't a problem, it wouldn't come to you. If everything's handled and everything's status quo and everything's good and doing exactly what it should, you can go retire. You can go chill on a beach. That's not how your job works. There's always a problem, assuming you're pushing. There's businesses out there that they just want to maintain and they just want to hang out every day, and that exists. But if you're trying to build something and create something and push and break boundaries, it is always going to be on fire. And getting used to that and understanding that that's what you signed up for has been like the biggest thing that we continue, my partner and I, Tony, to talk about and remind ourselves. Like when all the trade wars started happening with China, I walked in, I'm like, think about Tim Cook and dealing with geopolitical climates as part of your day-to-day running a business. Like, biggest company in the world, he's dealing with crap every day that has nothing to do with what he did. It's all to do with politics, and he has to deal with it though. And that it just never goes away. And understanding that was important.
Well, I appreciate you being here at Growth Think Tank and sharing your wisdom. Tell us where our audience can find more about Hawke Media.
Yeah, hawkemedia.com, HAWKE media.com. And I'm easy to contact too. It's just @ Erik Huberman on every social media channel.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a powerful interview. I really appreciate some of the depth that we were able to get to. He's so excited about this relationship with his COO, Tony, that he just goes on and on and on. So hopefully you find that valuable. I really love the fact that he talks about the importance of transparency and radical candor, and the mistake that he shared about, where he had missed this opportunity to really build that relationship, but he was able to correct that. So that was a really great piece of this interview. Well, hopefully you're enjoying this as much as I'm enjoying creating it for you, and you're getting as much out of it as I think you should be. Hopefully you're applying the messages, and if you could really take a moment to find and think of one person that would appreciate these messages about growth, then make sure you refer them to growththinktank.com. You can pick a specific episode and tell them exactly what you like about it, but we're not looking to get to grow for vanity's sake, but we want the right people tuning in so that they can become better leaders and they can grow the companies fast like they want to. All right, that's my take here on the show. As always, lead with courage, and I'll see you next time.